Welcome to TYTSports, everybody. Rick Strom, Heather Ankeny is here. Heather, who is heading to a very big audition today. Just saying, we're all very excited for you.
Thank you.
Why'd you have to do that?
I don't know.
Because it's good. She's got an audition for a big show. It's exciting. When I have an audition,
Is everything we say off the air suddenly on the air now?
I know.
I didn't mention that her stomach's grumbling.
My stomach is a participant in this,
Well
in this
done.
round.
That wouldn't have been cool.
Well done, Ben.
Heather co-hosts The Edge with our friend Mark Thompson, and also
Great voice, Mark Thompson.
Great voice.
Yeah.
Also works with our friend Chris Liss at RotoWire, which is, I think, the preeminent fantasy website.
Thanks.
I've used and given it money for many years.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll get you. We'll have to get you a free subscription now.
I may be 3 days away here. I got to get through 3 days in the baseball season. I have a 7-point lead in my baseball league.
I forget about.
Congratulations.
You're gonna win.
Well, except it's the most tenuous 7. Like I lead by 2 home runs and .0001 in batting average, and the guy chasing me could pass. Like I could lose 9 points in a good day. So
All right.
whatever, it'd be my 5th title in 12 years. It's not a big deal. Whatever.
It's amazing that you're talking about winning, because every time we hear you talking
I
about
know.
sports, it's usually losing.
But here's what I'm good at. Rotis.
Rotis. You sound like Jank now.
And in, well, because, there's something about, here's what I'm good at, fantasy. It doesn't, I sound like Johnny Pie, right? And nobody wants that.
He's so pissed at you, by the way, that you keep bringing that up.
But this is an inside joke that I'm not a part of.
Totally,
I guess
yeah.
everybody else
It's his
is.
nickname.
Oh.
But
Basically, an
he maybe-
intern.
but he maybe doesn't want it. It's hard to tell.
It looks like.
I don't think he's made up
he
his mind
doesn't.
yet. But football has been more challenging for me this year.
Why
in
is
the
that?
TYT league, I'm 1-2. In my main league, I'm 1-2. I win that league all the time too, or at least do well, get to the playoffs
Sure.
and so forth. But I don't have it this year, and it's because it's very.
It's 3 weeks in and you don't have it this year.
It's not going to happen the team is not going to turn around.
It might.
I don't think.
You're wrong. It might. You're just a couple injuries away from your team.
Exactly.
Your team totally turning around.
Well, first of all, I have what I've done in the last 3 weeks, and I'll be interested to get your take on it. Is because there are a lot of teams like I have significantly improved depth. Like when the season
Sure.
started, you look at your team, and I'm like, not only is it bad, I can't. Like if anything goes wrong, I'm going to go 2-12 when the season's over, because I spent my money on CJ Spiller.
Oh.
And all those of us, especially in an auction league, this is an auction league.
And like every league, though, the TYT league as well.
I drafted him, I think 5th in the TYT league, and I spent $30 on him in our $32 on him, I think, in an auction league, and he is like the worst running back in football.
He's not the worst running back in football, but I think that you're going to see that turn around. I think you're going to see why you spent that much money on CJ Spiller.
How is it going to turn around, though, when Fred Jackson is taking up all the carries?
He's not going to
Spare
take up
me
all
on
the
Fred
carries.
Jackson. Yeah,
Why? Because of his
Fred
name?
Jackson
Is that why?
Fred Jackson is still like 32 years old. He's still not nearly as mobile between the 20s.
Yeah, exactly.
as
So
CJ
use the
Spiller.
shit out of him while he's still 32, before he's 33.
Do you have Fred Jackson?
No, I don't. I just love seeing Ben
I
fail.
drafted Fred Jackson to handcuff with CJ Spiller. But when I lost the first game, I scored like 58 points the first week. I just got hammered. And I was like, look, my team's bad, and you don't turn it around by having Fred Jackson. Like if Fred Jackson does okay, so be it. But like if I have to rely on Fred Jackson, I can hope for 6 and 8. But what you got to do, and I think this is a significant strategy, is like an injury to C.J. Spiller. You don't fill in Fred Jackson and go, I am set. Plug that guy in and ride me to the title. You win by, especially if you start but with early season moves, you win by taking risks on young, super fast guys.
Okay.
But like Kenny Stills in New Orleans, because
Well, that's New Orleans.
right. But you get a guy. You get a 21-year-old, incredibly fast receiver.
On a team with Drew
You
Brees.
sound like Al Davis right now.
Yeah, on a team with Drew Brees, right. And you wait for
You
Marcus
realize-
Colston to break his hip.
You realize the Al
Right?
Davis formula has failed for years, right? You were going with the Al Davis formula.
But I mean, whether it's a receiver, whether it's a back, you go with youth and you go with speed. Fred Jackson, no one's winning with Fred Jackson. No one. It's not happening. But anyway, I have made my team bet.
Okay. So you dropped Fred Jackson.
Yeah,
Not
right.
even for like a flex play, bye week, fill in.
No,
You
I
got
dropped him
nothing.
because we don't have many. We have we got 6 bench spots.
That's a pretty deep bench.
Yeah, it's the reasonable bench. All of a sudden, I tried to give Bilal Powell away.
No.
Right, and now, thank God,
Yeah.
I was turned down, and now
Yeah.
I withdrew
Oh,
all
and
trade offers.
Snelling and Marlon
now
Brown.
and now I have Jason
Can both
Stelling.
play.
Marlon Brown's another.
You might
example.
win.
And I just signed Ken Thompson. He was released this week. But for a while there, like I had Fred Jackson and I was starting Brian Hartline. Like if you're starting Brian Hartline, no, you're never going to win.
He's decent in a flex
you're not
spot.
gonna win.
No team in the history of fantasy football has ever gone to the playoffs with Brian Hartline.
Oh,
It's
see,
never happened.
here's your problem.
Yeah, my problem is Robert Griffin III.
Yeah, RG3 is a problem.
And I got no other quarterback. And then Ryan Matthews and C.J. Spiller.
Ryan
Those are
Matthews,
problems.
I think you're going to be fine.
But then again,
Hakeem Nicks might be a little bit of a problem.
Hakeem Nicks, get your pass. Get your pass. He's 25 years old.
Well,
He can
that's
get your
because
pass.
Eli keeps throwing him to the other team.
I don't know.
As a matter of fact, one of the names that I wrote down was Ryan Matthews, and I wanted to get your take on him. I mean, from the fantasy football guru perspective.
I hate Ryan Matthews.
Why?
I personally hate that guy. He has lost me more games in the past. So I didn't go anywhere near Ryan Matthews in this draft and in this season.
We believe, the TYT family believes,
What?
that Ryan Matthews, and there's no sign of it through 3 games in our league, he's averaging 7 points.
He's
a game,
glass, first of all.
that the stink of Norv Turner,
still there.
and it might take like 4 or 5 games before you realize, wait a minute, I'm not in prison anymore. I'm free.
And he'll start running.
Phillip Rivers figured it out earlier.
He did.
Phillip Rivers all of a sudden looks like a different player. So the question is, will Ryan Matthews emerge a little bit?
He's 25 years old, and he doesn't feel like he's 30.
Yeah, because he's injured. He's been injured every year. I don't think he's played. Well, he's definitely not played one complete season. But I don't know how many games he's played.
Here's why I'm good at fantasy football, even though my team will be bad this year. Because I've
You just said you're 1 and 2.
Yeah, no, I got it. But like, no Sean Moreno, Jason Snelling, Marlon Brown, Kembrell Tompkins, Brian Hartline, all these guys I signed as free agents.
Package them together.
Before
trade
they'd
'em.
done anything.
And trade them all for
but
Peyton
there's
Manning.
Totally.
But the lesson here that I would impart to people is, if you sit around waiting for players, you're going to lose them on the waiver wire to have their good weeks. You've got to take, especially if you have a team that's 1 and 2, look at the waiver wire and take some risks ahead of time. Don't wait for somebody to bust out and catch 8 balls for 115 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, you got to do a little bit of research. You got
do
to
a little
watch
bit-
some games.
You got to do a little research,
not just
and you got to
highlights.
be willing to go through your roster week after week. Like, you have to be willing to. I'm saying, like, I did cut Kenny Stills. Like, you got to be, and I got it. He's on my mind, but you got to be willing to take a shot on a guy like that. He hasn't caught a pass in 2 weeks. So he's like the wrong guy
I
to take
love
a
all
shot
of
on.
all your qualifications.
Yeah, I have a
after
lot.
each statement.
I have a lot of qualifications. But you got to be willing to shake up your. You can't be wedded to the guys that you had. And for some reason in our league, no Sean Moreno, who started week 1 with Denver but did nothing, he was out there.
Yeah.
And I had this miserable team, and I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden he has a huge week.
But then what we proved last year, maybe it's the mediocrity of the TYT league, but the guy who finished in like 3rd place kept all of his players. He didn't make really any
make
big.
one move.
He didn't make any big moves.
So
he
he
drafted a
drafted
really
well.
solid team. Yeah, he drafted a very solid team.
yeah,
They got a little lucky.
and got
Yeah.
a little lucky because he didn't have
Everyone
injuries.
has to get a little lucky in fantasy football, though,
Yeah.
to an
But the
extent.
guys like me, the guys with Robert Griffin are in a bind because he's put up reasonable second half numbers, although there were barely any touchdowns.
Yeah, just
last
let them
weekend.
keep
Just
getting
garbage
behind.
time.
Yeah.
That's great for fantasy football.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you can tell, you can see it in those first half of games. Something's wrong. Like it's
Well,
not,
yeah, he can't run.
can't run and he can't really throw. I mean,
He
it's
could
not-
throw for
He could-
326 yards.
could-
Yeah, but
throw.
he's getting 250 of those 300 yards in the 200 in the second half. I mean, the Redskins look terrible in the first half.
Yeah, so you're speaking from a fan perspective, not a fantasy
no.
football perspective, it sounds like.
Both. I'm talking about, right, obviously, look, if you can count on it, but by the way, second half garbage time, you can't count on. It didn't happen last week. There wasn't great second half garbage time.
I
for
mean,
Robert Griffin
but
III.
from a fantasy perspective, Alfred Morris was like in the top 10, going in the top 10, and I don't.
It's one of the best rushers this year. Yeah.
He's Alfred Morris on RotoWire is the #1 running back ranked this week because they got
Ahead of McCoy.
because of that matchup. Well, McCoy's 3rd, but Morris with again running against the Panthers, where you would think there'd be some success, and where the Redskins will obviously try to reestablish the running
I
game.
hope that they do. I hope that they do something. The Redskins.
Oh,
Maybe they should-
By
Of their
the way,
defense.
I said Panthers. Panthers are off this week. I meant the Raiders. The Redskins have the Raiders, which is why Morris is the #1 running back.
Maybe they should sign Liddell Betts back. Maybe he would help out the Redskins.
Liddell Betts has a Ben Mankiewicz fantasy ring.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I won a title with because they had
That
a
is so
great
pathetic.
somebody got hurt. I can't even remember who. The last 5 or 6 games I rode Liddell Betts, baby. in
Yeah.
flex. Yeah. It was
right.
good. Number 46.
Good old number 46.
But how do you deal with a team when you have guys like when you're in a situation like with Hakeem Nicks? What do? Do you start Hakeem Nicks the next week?
Yeah,
I think you have to. Don't you?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think so. Even though it's a sinking ship with the Giants right now. Yeah, why not?
I feel like the Giants are, like last night's 49ers. I think this week it's do or die, and I don't think they're going to score just a few points. I think the Giants are going to.
You do.
Oh, yeah.
They're in Kansas City. It's a tough place to play and a reasonable defense.
I feel like Peyton and Eli were Skyping last night, and Eli was like, what do I do? Give me some advice. I'm 0-3. But I believe that they're going to, they have to turn it around.
Is there one guy that you see that could be available in most leagues for people to pick up?
I think Broyles he probably got picked up a lot on the waiver this week. I know I'm
like throwing you a curveball.
No, it's fine. I think this week I feel like a lot of tight ends probably got dropped in your league. I think Miami's tight end Clay. I think
Charles Clay.
Yeah, he's an interesting look, especially heading into the bye weeks because you're probably you're not going to want to drop your tight end, but that's an interesting fill-in.
Steve-O picked him up.
Yeah,
oh, really?
And he can, and you have this added bonus that he might run it in, like as a little,
Yeah, he's
because he does a little fullbacking.
That's somebody I would keep my eye on. I guess that's probably available unless he got picked up a bunch this week because there's 2 buys. There's not a bye.
There's the Packers and the Panthers are off this week.
It's so ridiculous.
Right. Well, it's been 2 weeks. They're probably exhausted. I mean, these guys have really run themselves into the
So
ground.
is Bobby Rainey just like useless now? Is that pretty much it?
I don't think that the fact that Trent Richardson didn't put up big numbers in Cleveland, I would imagine that you don't really, there's no Cleveland running back that terribly interests anybody.
You're saying Brian Nogleman-Minaya?
And by the way,
What was that?
I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm making fun of myself.
And I'm making my, and where I picked up like a guy like Jason Snelling, that's my 8th try at Jason Snelling over the years.
Oh,
Who's
I know.
Much older than
Yeah, but he's
me.
not behind Michael Turner and Jaquiz Rogers.
But I would rather he
He is behind Jaquiz Rogers, but I mean,
right. But if you can get one of those guys, to me, it's Jason Snelling because he can catch passes, he makes plays.
He's kind of a beast.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
had
he's
112
big.
yards. He's big. He can run it in. He's going to catch passes too. And Jaquiz, at some point being 5'1" hurts you. Although watching Jaquiz on blitz,
I don't agree, but
watching Jaquiz pick up blitzes.
yeah, he's a good blocker.
Good at it.
Yeah,
which
he's a
is
good
otherwise he
blocker.
wouldn't be playing.
Do you know what the fantasy football name is for Jaquiz Rogers?
No way.
What?
I think you could get it. No?
The fantasy football name?
Yeah, Jaquiz in my pants.
Oh gosh. Boy. High class operation you guys have
Oh,
here.
totally.